Hi everyone, this is artist Sandy Freckleton Gagan. I'm just here to do the demonstration I referred to in the WebEx meeting last Thursday. So today I first want to talk about, before I start toning the paper, I just wanted to reinforce the concept that I had gone over in the WebEx meeting. And this stage is called mapping. And in mapping, you want to make sure that you're just seeing what is in shadow and what is in light. And look at the proportions. You want about a third of light and two-thirds of shadow. And it's a broad, flat plane. It's not something that you're going to have any variation in value. It's just a flat value 5 plane. And you want to describe that in a very flat way. Come across that in an oblique 45 degree and just lay that down nice and flat. Okay, so then you can compress it with some paper towel like this and just go over the whole surface, compressing it even more. And I just like to keep a piece of paper towel just in my hand, and that helps me to compress those values. So that's essentially, you still do the first steps, the gesture, the early block-in point to point. You're going to go into block-in, and in block-in you're going to be thinking about your triangulation, and you're starting to achieve more and more accurate proportions. So here's this mapping stage, and it's basically, they call it a silhouette or mapping. So it's just the first precursor to indicating your value pattern. So I've indicated my form shadow edge, my cast shadows, my form shadow edge, cast shadows, and I don't really differentiate between the planes yet. So that'll come in the next stage. So that's how to do mapping. All right, now the next stage is how do you tone your paper? Now, toning your paper can be a lot of fun. There's lots of different ways that you can do it. I'm going to demonstrate a couple. You're going to first off take some Vine charcoal. Just use your normal Vine charcoal by Winsor Newton. And you're going to take your paddle and sharpen it until you get a nice fine pile of the charcoal, just like this. Okay, so you just keep that on a paper towel. All right, now one of the things that I personally don't recommend is to just take flat charcoal and try to put down tone with flat charcoal. I don't think that gives you any control. And so I like other methods better. All right, so I'm going to artfully sprinkle my medium down. Make sure you have enough of it. There's, that's going to require at least a stick of charcoal. Then the next thing you're going to need is you're going to need a piece of t-shirt cut off, and don't use your chamois. This is the chamois. We're not going to use that at this stage. Just use the paper, the t-shirt. And first, you're going to move that charcoal in one single direction, like this, and then come back and move it the opposite direction, like this. Okay, now you're going to have some variegation in it. Shake off the rest of it that's left on the paper surface. That way you can have some that you can store for the next time, and that's a really good thing to do. Okay, so the first method I'm going to show you is just the reductive method. So whatever you're drawing, you're first going to indicate just the overall construction of the line, just like you do in the normal process. So I've chosen to do some construction lines with a sphere. And then you're going to take your chamois, just take your finger, put it inside it, and use it like a drawing tool. So you're going to remove all of the light zone. And this will tell you if you've put down your tone too much, it's going to create a problem for you because you won't be able to reduce it back to the light of the paper. So when you lay that tone down, don't scrub it into the paper surface or you'll have some problems. Now, if you come to a point where you're not getting light enough in value, then come back in and use your kneaded eraser. This is the reductive method. Okay, so then you can go back in from this point and start to add in your form shadow edge and just clear up the drawing concept. You're going to look for the terminator. You're going to start drawing in. Here is my cast shadow, and just start acquiring your values. Just like this. Okay, so you're going to be refining that tone, compressing it. Notice that the values here are your middle values. You can come back in and restate your form shadow edge and just darken that a little. Come at an oblique and at a 45-degree angle. And notice that that form shadow edge gets darker right here. So then it begins to thin as it comes to that edge. So everything you want, this whole unified plane in here. You don't want to differentiate a lot of the value right now. You just want what's in light and what's in shadow. And that's a good start for the beginning introduction of our introduction to using charcoal. Always lay it down in a single direction. If you need more, then come back at an oblique angle and just change direction and add another value of or layer. Okay, now you can always blend this out with your brush, or you can blend it out with your chamois. Don't use paper towel at this point. The paper towel will come a little bit later. This is a type of charcoal right here that I'm using called Neutrum. And I love Neutrum. It is a type of vine charcoal, but the advantage to the Neutrum is you can see that when I just tried to compress with my brush, part of the Winsor Newton charcoal started to blow away. And you can put your hand in it and it just starts to come off the paper surface very easily. And so I prefer the Neutrum just because it's a really strong value, has rich dark hues, and it's a really beautiful charcoal to work with. And you can do an entire drawing with the Neutrum where you would need to change from the Winsor Newton into a compressed charcoal. And I do that as well with a Neutrum. I'll use compressed, but for right now, we're looking at a very flat, broad shape between the form and the cast shadow. That's the stage that we want to be at here. So that's my demonstration of how to start the reductive process. Anything that you need to, you can clean up. You're going to need to make sure that you don't put your hand down on the paper surface, because if you do, then quickly you'll remove part of your drawing. So if you have two chairs that you can put together, one backwards towards you and one facing you so that you can sit down, that's a really good thing if you don't have an easel to work with. And most of you have that in your home. So, or use your clipboard, hold it on your lap, and then have the clipboard sit against a table or a cupboard. That's a really convenient way of working as well. So charcoal is very forgiving. It's a lot of fun. You work with it at the back of the charcoal. Some people have an aversion to using their fingers to blend. I personally have always used my fingers to blend. It's just a kinesthetic process for me. And so I like being able to do that. And don't be concerned if you have marks in your paper or your surface where there's striations. That's all part of the flavor of the drawing, and you want some of that in there. Okay, so that's just a very simple shape, the sphere. But learning how to draw this in stage one, this is the reductive method, is a really wonderful process to start a drawing. Now the next stage, I would go in and start developing my values. Right now, this is the stage I'm going to leave it at. The next thing that I wanted to show you is how to tone your paper with a dispersion. And this one is an ink dispersion, and it is just India ink and distilled water. And I really love that. Just take a really soft brush, blend that out, and then you can tone your paper. Now I love this because it will dry nice and flat, and I can add in some textured values. I love changing the types of inks that I use because I think that's a really beautiful surface to work on. It's a more warm than the charcoal. And then I can actually go darker or lighter on that. I'd have to highlight with white on this. But that's just develop the dispersion by putting a couple of drops of India ink into some water. And then you can either tape the surface around or just use some of the Artistico Fabriano. That's a good thing. Now you can also create a charcoal dispersion the exact same way. You can add charcoal powder to distilled water. It has to be distilled water. Okay, so those are a couple of ways that you can work on toning your paper this week. I want you to come prepared so when you start your assignment after skulls that you'll have some experience toning the paper. What I would suggest is always do a test strip on a separate sheet of paper so that way you don't have a problem. This is one more thing that I wanted to show you while I'm talking about it. This is a product called Pan Pastel. It's really a fun product to use. You can do a base or start out a drawing with this. You need some type of a trowel or like a palette knife with a sponge applicator applied to that. You just dip into this and then begin to add your values. You can see that Pan Pastel is a lot darker in value than is the normal Winsor Newton charcoal. Okay, so the one thing I don't recommend is I don't recommend taking the side of your charcoal and just rubbing it on the surface and then blending it out. I think that doesn't give you the kind of look that I'm wanting for this assignment, and it can actually be very detrimental to your drawing. You're going to lose a lot of your proportions and some of the accuracy that you've just been working so hard to get. So that's my demonstration for today. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please email me if you have any questions. Again, I enjoy working with you and look forward to our next demonstration. Thanks so much. Have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.